Hey, this is Mike from the Graphic Novel Show. Are you interested in starting and running your own podcast? Well, you know, this is the second one that we've done. We used to do a different one, and we decided to start this one. And last time we used Anchor, and you know what? We decided to go back with Anchor again because they are the easiest way to make a podcast. They give you everything you need in one place for free. You can do it right from your phone or on your computer. Anchor gives you creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. You can do that right from your phone. That's quite amazing. They'll also distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Now, what you need to do is go download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hi, I'm Parker, and I use they, them pronouns.
Hi, I'm Mike, and I use he, him pronouns. And welcome to the Graphic Novel Podcast. Welcome to our weekly show where we discuss graphic novels, zines, and other comics. We throw in a bit of real life.
Sometimes we're talking about queer issues. Sometimes we're talking about race issues. Sometimes death. Sometimes relationships.
Every Friday, there's a brand new episode for you. And if you like the show, we'd really love it if you went on Apple or Spotify or YouTube or anywhere and gave us a great rating or a review or anything like that. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts would really help us out.
Make sure that you subscribe so that every week, every Friday, when this episode goes live, it shows right up in your feed, waits there for you to listen to us. But most importantly, if you want to help us out, the best thing that you can do is to share our show with your friends.
That's right. You can interact with us on Twitter, Facebook, or Insta. And if you want to give us a voice message, you can go to anchor.fm/graphic novel podcast and leave us a voice message, which we could read on the air. That's where you go.
Where do I go?
Normally you say and something else. I already said it. No, you said something else.
No, I know, because usually you interrupt me about sharing with your friends.
I don't interrupt.
You never interrupt.
I've never interrupted you.
That's not a relationship problem that we speak about on the daily.
All right. This is not Relationships Are You. This is the Graphic Novel Podcast. That'll be next week. But anyhow, how's it going this week, Parker?
Stay tuned for our next podcast.
How is it going?
It's I'm not great.
No, that's right.
I had a bad week, and then I slept weird, and now my neck's out or something. I don't know. I really should go to a chiropractor.
Probably should.
That requires finding a trans-friendly chiropractor, and that's a whole other thing. And it's like
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, it hit almost 100 here yesterday, which
oh my god, it was so.
Which
awful.
is, I mean, it was 99 at one point.
We're recording early.
In the car.
Yeah, we got in the car because we don't have air conditioning in our house because we don't want to pay for air conditioning when we only really need it one day a year, right?
Right.
Because we would end up using it more often than we really need it. Right. Because I know the way we are. So we just opt out.
Right. Not important.
Of the expensive.
I mean, it's not something that a lot of people have in the Northwest because it gets cool.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of more people do. I don't feel like as many as, like, say, Buffalo. Because Buffalo has really hot, humid summers.
Yeah.
And it seems like everybody has.
And
everybody was asked every year, your parents specifically, when are you getting this? When are you getting an air conditioner?
But there it stays
like, we just come
muggy
and stay
at night
with you.
still.
We don't need it. Yes,
yeah.
There is no cooling off, and I feel like we talk about this every time.
We have, but not every time. But anyhow, so yes, it was very hot, and we got through it.
But we got in the air conditioned car and went for a little ride, and
yeah, that's good.
Good for the environment. I'm feeling guilty as I'm speaking it out loud.
Yeah. Anyhow, got last week's show is still doing great.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We appreciate you listening
and
to that show and sharing
retweeting. I think Twitter is where a lot of our
Yeah, that's
audience comes from.
yeah.
I don't
But
know.
we appreciate that. A lot of people listen to
I
it
am
on Apple
terrible at Twitter.
Podcasts.
My friend texted me and he's like, do you follow this artist or something? And I'm like, no. Mike does all of our Twitter stuff. Tweeting. So if you are on Twitter, most likely you're talking to Mike.
Maybe.
It might be me. I do check it occasionally.
Yep. You posted something today. But
no, I posted that on mine.
on your personal. Oh, I see.
Graphic Novel Podcast.
I see.
I do see if notifications come up, and I'm like, oh, cool. And sometimes I'll go like things, but I just don't. I don't know. It's I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but I really don't understand Twitter that well.
Yeah,
I'm one of those millennials that just doesn't get it.
I think we've mentioned this before, but I've had 2 accounts.
Why are you dancing?
Canceled because of the current presidential administration, and I opened my mouth too much twice when I had lots of followers too.
It's so weird to me.
Tough.
Yes, anytime you open your mouth, you get lots of followers, and then that opening your mouth would also mean that you got reported. I'm guessing is what happened.
Yeah.
And
well, they have
Twitter
a thing now.
Ban you.
They have a thing now. I wrote somebody. I wrote you.
You need to get famous
suck.
and get a blue check mark, and then it'll be harder to.
Well, they do it to
you, right?
them. But
do they do it?
Yeah, but
as quickly and easily though.
I wrote to somebody. I commented on somebody.
Oh my god! I warned you.
Jay Feely, former NFL quarterback douchebag, went golfing with the other douchebag.
I really hate it when you call. I know it's hard for you to find
a better word. Because a douche is not a bad thing.
But it is kind of a bad thing because like those chemicals are like really bad for the vaginal.
Yeah.
pH.
Okay, the scumbag in charge.
I mean, there's
is scumbag okay?
Scumbag. I can't think of
anything bad about it
yet. It may
okay. The scumbag in charge went golfing with a former NFL quarterback who I'm sure I had on my fantasy football team at some point, who's also a scumbag, and he tweeted.
But people use douches for anal sex too. So
okay, yes, I know in the porn industry they do.
So it's a positive thing.
But
not just the porn industry. But if you don't want messy anal sex, then you do it properly and you douche beforehand.
Oh,
I don't think that you use like chemical.
Yeah,
you do it.
You just open your anal. Never mind. And
we don't need to go into the details. Like if you're listening and you're like,
okay, my point
people
of this
douche their anuses to have anal sex. You can Google it without the step-by-step instructions on how to do that.
My point was about Twitter. That's where I was. And we went off into a way different story here. It was about losing my account. I typed, you suck.
You use that.
You suck
right.
to Jay Feely. And Twitter immediately popped up and said, are you sure you want to say this? Because you can get in trouble. So I'm like, all right, cancel it. I won't say it then.
You did that from our...
No, I did it from
podcast.
I did it from my own. Yes.
Okay. I care less when you do it from your personal thing, but I'm like, come on.
No. I don't. I try not to
reach out to our people.
On graphic novel.
I mean you.
Graphic novel. I'll click on like things when I see positive, especially trans positive things and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, see, a lot of the people on there I followed originally. A lot of trans activists, but also trans artists
and
queer artists
and Black Lives Matter stuff, which is what today's show is going to be about.
See, I think that's what I should have done from the beginning. Like, I know I've pulled you over to the liberal side, but when I was getting ready
to the uber liberal side, I was already.
Uber
partially.
Is not liberal. Yeah, no, Uber. you were like middle. You were like definitely left of center.
Yes,
but I pulled you further left, but not by like saying this is how you have to feel. I did it by like sending you articles about stuff. And,
I agree.
But what I really needed to do was just get on your Twitter and just start following people who
posted this
who
stuff.
share the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And their own personal perspective, because a lot of times that's what it is. It's their personal life experience that they're tweeting about.
Yeah.
And you're just like, that's not fucking right.
No,
you know?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Well, anyhow, we've got.
Because then I know you'll read it. Because article for you is like, oh, I have to read an article. Ugh.
Yep. So, what is this?
I'm pretty certain that a lot of times you don't read all the articles fully. So then I started making you listen to podcasts in my car.
Yeah, I know it. All right.
I didn't ask how your week was. Do you want to talk about it?
No, my week is fine.
This week's hard.
It's all hard.
That's what they said.
That's what who said?
That's what they said.
What? Who's they?
Them. They, thems.
All right, some interesting news this week. This actually came in right before our last show went live, but we were already in the can, so we weren't going to do that. Add that on, but
in the can is
in
that
the can,
industry?
yeah. No, I wasn't on the can. We were in the. It was in the can.
So I thought cans were the headphones.
So what happened was
no, you're not going to respond to that.
No, I'm not going to. So Warner Brothers has a new CEO, and apparently they went on a head shopping spree last week. It's HBO is expected to lose 175 staffers. Let's see. Variety reports it's
what was this person's name? Are they a man?
Of course they are. Okay. 650 layoffs from Warner Brothers, and Warner also owns DC Comics, which I don't even know if we've read a DC comic, but they own Batman and Superman and some big names. Okay. And there were some big layoffs there also. Editors, artists, all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
So it was a big day, and so
a bad day.
So I found there was a new article. The Hollywood Reporter spoke with Jim Lee, who's the publisher, former co-founder of Image Comics back in the 90s. Also, if you want to look up Comics TV, COMX-TV, and oops. Anyhow, Comics.
How many times you can push it?
No, it's on. I gotta check it. I think there's.
It just does a loop. Oh my god!
I think there's something wrong with it. So, what happened is
I was just.
I know that, but because I pressed crickets instead. It was gonna. That
would have sounded better.
Anyhow, if you want to look, there's an interview with Jim Lee on YouTube. So anyhow, Jim Lee spoke with the Hollywood Reporter. He said there's no pencils down notice, so any major projects they were working on are still going.
Okay, so that's good. They're still going, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have the same team.
But what he says
they could be short of people.
What he says that Wonder Woman too. Wonder Woman's one of the DC comics too. They cut 20% of their staff, with many senior editors let go and reorganization implemented that sent shockwaves through not just the company but through the comic and DC fan community. Let's see. He says this week has been a really heavy, difficult time, not just for me, but for the entire organization. We've said goodbye to people that have been huge contributors and who have helped define and make DC what it is today.
Yeah, they got to get rid of the people that they're paying the biggest
most
bucks.
Money. Yep.
Yeah.
So rumors began. AT&T acquired Time Warner in 2018 from Warner Media, and
oh my God, can you believe I never made that connection?
Yeah.
In Buffalo, because we don't have Time Warner out here. But you have them in Buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
But we had Warner Brothers out here.
Oh, yes. And we had Time Warner back there.
But I never made the connection. How do I not make the connection?
Time Magazine and Warner Brothers merged together years ago. Exactly.
Yeah. I never made the connection.
Wasn't AOL part of that at one? I think that was AOL Time Warner.
They make those jokes on BoJack. They list these companies' names.
AOL, Verizon,
T-Mobile, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is.
Anyhow, so there were all kinds of rumors that AT&T wasn't interested in the comics business and stuff, and so.
Well, it doesn't sound like they are either, right?
So they asked him. He said, "They're absolutely 100% still producing comics."
Wait, they asked Jim Lee? Okay.
Yep. It is still the cornerstone of everything we do. The need for storytelling, updating the mythology is vital to what we do.
But Jim Lee is a creator.
But no, he's a publisher now. He's the publisher. He's the head of DC Comics, basically.
Basically, but is he actually in a position that he can say that?
There's people above him.
I mean, I know he can say whatever he wants. But...
Yes, he is. He said, that said, we will be reducing the size of the slate.
Yeah.
Looking at the bottom 20%, 25% of the line that wasn't breaking even or was losing money.
So his thought process is, I'm still here, so obviously they care about comics.
Yeah.
But I would like to think that that's true, but I don't.
We're making sure that every book that we put out for a reason. So they're not just going to do comics because they want to do a comic. It has to be a reason. Now they have two interim editor-in-chiefs.
No,
And
for the reason being to make money.
that's the bottom line. It's a business, and it's no longer just a comic book company. It's let's squeeze as much money as we can.
That's why I love supporting independent people, because it's like they don't care about getting any kind of message across. They don't care, like some of the books we read, it's like you can tell that the artists aren't in it to make the money off of it. You know what I mean? They're in it because they're passionate about the story.
Right. And I think we talked about this some months ago. In the spring, DC broke away from Diamond Distributors.
Yeah.
And they signed with 2 new companies. And I was reading about that. And the 2 new companies are also they're comic book companies, not publishers, but they're like comic book stores. So they are in essence competing with other comic book stores while being distributors at the same time. They're big companies. They're not just like a little mom and pop
Yeah.
place. And so they asked him, they said, so how was that fared? Was it a mistake? He says, not only has it exceeded our initial expectations, but the size and strength of the business is at the same level or higher than pre-COVID. So, so they said that they're doing, he said, we got our numbers for 3 Jokers, and the first issue sold over 300,000 copies, and that's an $8 book. So
Joker, like Batman and Joker.
It's called The 3 Jokers. Yeah, it's the Joker. Yeah, that one.
Okay. Wait, 3. Interesting. Okay.
Well,
anyway,
it's some goofy story, I'm sure.
I don't know superheroes.
And then there's other stuff that AT&T hates comics. He says, I don't think they want us to stop. I don't think they want to stop us from publishing comics. Comics serve
as long as they make money.
A lot of different purposes, and one of them is a great way to incubate ideas and create the next great franchises. So that's what it is. Warner Brothers. I mean, they need to, to have stuff that they can do. The DC Universe, all that stuff.
What company was it that? Oh man, that show I watched on Netflix. You weren't enjoying it, so I watched it alone. I think it was called Hollywood.
Oh yeah,
I think it was called Hollywood. Yeah. There was a company that they were with, and the husband was, I mean, not the most progressive person, but he went into a coma or something, and I don't know how like realistic this was. Mm-hmm. I don't remember if it was based upon true story, but I'm sure our listeners can let us know.
Based on true stories, but I think.
But the wife took over while he was in a coma, and she put this film out there that had and if I remember, an Asian lead, mm-hmm. and a black writer, and an Asian director, or it may have been the other way around. But there was mm-hmm. a lot of minorities that mm-hmm. were part of this movie that they were making,
right?
Including a gay black writer.
Okay.
Anyway, and so this whole thing was like, everybody's like, you're going to kill the company mm-hmm. doing this, and she's like, I don't care, I'm doing it mm-hmm. because.
But it didn't happen, of course.
No, it did happen. It did happen.
Kill the company?
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry.
No,
the movie didn't happen.
It turned out to be a great.
It turned out to be great. Exactly. It was a black female lead.
Mm-hmm. But this is old too. Takes place.
Yes, back in the
40s or 50s.
40s or 50s, yeah. And there was a sex worker gas station.
Oh yeah. That's right. That's right. I remember now.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
That's right.
Because it was the first. I'm pretty sure she was the first black female lead. There was also an Asian.
The 50s, I think.
There was also an Asian woman in it, and the writer or the director, I believe, was half Asian. Because mm-hmm. there was this thing because he was white passing.
Oh yeah.
And so he was using his privilege to help mm-hmm. boost other people.
Right.
But still wanted to see people like himself in movies, and in director's chairs and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it was I really enjoyed it. I don't know how I got off on this tangent, but whatever.
Right.
But they were sure that this was gonna, put them out of business,
mm-hmm.
and instead they were winning awards left and right.
Oh yeah, that's great. See, it's
that goes back to money. Like, it wouldn't have mattered. Like,
if he was doing it, if the man was doing it, would not have happened.
Exactly.
If it failed while she did it,
it would have been all her fault.
Yeah. But it made money, and they're like, oh, great idea. We won't do another one.
And then he came back in toward the end. And I don't know how much credit he got for it, but I remember at the award ceremonies, they were getting up and thanking mm-hmm. her specifically. Mm-hmm. But I would venture to guess that all credit would have gone to her husband.
Yes, exactly. I remember that. I remember that now, because she was going to that gas station all the time, and she met the one guy she liked.
Exactly.
Okay, that's right. But her husband was the head of the studio. Okay, I remember.
Right.
I remember. I
don't remember what studio. Do you remember what studio?
No,
it was
I don't know if it was a real studio or not.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
All right,
our listeners are all screaming at their.
I know.
Phones.
One last story. This is from But Why Though podcast.com. they did a review of Eat and Love Yourself, an original graphic novel. Boom Studios released Eat and Love Yourself from cartoonist Sweeney Boo with colors by Joanna LaFuente and letters by DC Hopkins under the Boom Box imprint. It's about a young woman who struggles with society's image of her body and finds a magical item that takes her on an incredible journey of self-discovery and self-acceptance. Originally scheduled to debut in April, its release was pushed back, but it is out.
Cool.
And she's a young woman living with an eating disorder and trapped in a battle for her own self-worth. When she accidentally discovers something that will give her a chance to revisit her past, the relationships she's lost, the mistakes she's made, all of it, she thinks she has a chance to undo every wrong turn to put her life back on track. But the ultimate question of the book is, will she be able to find a way back to her present? And just as important, a way to treat herself with love and kindness at any size.
Aww.
So
that
sounds like definitely an interesting book. That probably one of those books that's needed. Another one of those books that fills a void for people that have eating disorders and body image. What's the word? Body
dysphoria?
Image.
Body dysphoria?
Is it during? Yeah.
Dysmorphia.
Yeah. So very cool. Anyhow, it's that time. Go for it, Parker.
Come on, let me enjoy it.
No.
This week we are reading APB, Artists Against Police Brutality, a comic book anthology edited by Bill Campbell, Jason Rodriguez, and John Jennings.
So, before you say anything, we got a message on Twitter from Bill Campbell who said he must have saw that we were liking Black Lives Matter stuff or something, or commented on something, and he said, "Hey, are you interested in reading this book?" And I said, "Sure,
of course."
So he sent me the PDF. But when I realized what book it was, I had just ordered it like a day or two before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It didn't click when he said, did he say like my book or something?
No. But I didn't remember because I had ordered a bunch of stuff and I couldn't remember what book it was.
Yeah.
And first of all, thank you, Bill, for sending that. I know I'm pretty sure
much.
I sent you a thank, but thank you for sending it. And this is going to be a good conversation from two white people. So we're hoping that we can do some justice to it.
Okay, so proceeds for this book go to the Innocence Project. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. We've all seen the pictures. A 6-year-old Ruby Bridges being escorted by U.S. Marshals on her first day at an all-white New Orleans school in 1960. A police dog attacking a demonstrator in Birmingham. Fire hoses turned on protesters. Martin Luther King Jr. addressing a crowd on the National Mall. These pictures were printed in papers, flashed across television screens, and helped to change the laws of this nation. But not all of the attitudes. We've all seen the pictures. Michael Brown laying face down in a pool of his own blood for hours. Protesters with their hands up, facing down militarized policemen. We've also seen the videos. Eric Garner choked to death. John Crawford III shot down in Walmart for carrying a toy gun. 12-year-old Tamir Rice gunned down in broad daylight for the same reason. This time, the pictures and videos aren't doing much to change things, if anything. They are a repeated reminder of how worthless Black and brown lives are to the justice system. So we need conversations to go along with the pictures, and we're sending out an APB to artists and writers to help jumpstart those conversations. APB, Artists Against Police Brutality, is a comic book anthology with one primary goal: show pictures and tell stories that get people talking.
Okay, this is
before you stop.
Yes.
The Innocence Project,
The
Innocence Project's mission is to free the staggering numbers of innocent people who remain incarcerated and to bring reform to the system responsible for their unjust imprisonment. So if you're looking for a place to donate to, the Innocence Project is one place that your dollars can make a difference.
The book was published by Rosarium Publishing, and like Parker mentioned, it was edited by Bill Campbell, Jason Rodriguez, and John Jennings. In the intro, Bill Campbell talks about this project was born out of anger. It was the night when a Staten Island grand jury decided not to put the officers responsible for the killing of Eric Garner, and the coroner did rule it a homicide, on trial for his murder. It was then that that he called. It says spurred me to call Jason and John to that very night create the anthology you now hold in your hands.
Wow.
I mean, it was that was finally the thing that he said, fuck all this shit.
Right.
We need people to talk about this. And this book, it's black and white, all different kinds of stories. Some of them are short stories. Some of them are poems.
Yep. They're not all graphic comics.
Yep.
So it's a little different than the graphic novels anthologies that we typically read, but still,
horribly
heart-wrenching.
Yes,
and
it is
eye-opening and mind-boggling, and
it doesn't matter who you are, this book will touch you the way you would fucking hope you wouldn't have to read these stories, and it's just all right. Let's go through. I'm going to tell you who all the creators are.
Yeah, there's a
We'll
lot.
do that.
But I think it's important to at least give their names. And
okay, there was Lalo Alcaraz, Dr. Reynaldo Anderson, Steve Artley, David Brame, Barbara Brandon Croft, Jennifer Marie Brissett, Bill Campbell. And Bill Campbell's the author of this book came out in 2015 too. So
yeah, we should say that.
It's 5 years old and just as relevant today as it was 5 years ago. And so I saw related to this, saw a song on YouTube from Body Count. I thought it was a new song called No Lives Matter. Body Count is Ice-T's heavy metal rap band. And so I bought their new album, which came out this year, and I bought the last album that has No Lives Matter on it. And holy shit, just listening to the lyrics.
What year did that come out, did you say?
3 years ago.
Oh.
That came out in 2017. The new album came out this year. But listening to the lyrics, he's like, I've been talking about this shit for 20 fucking years, and you people are just realizing that, all this crap is going on.
Oh, yeah.
And this was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And even now, this No Lives Matter is just as relevant.
I mean, that's the thing is when you, I mean, we talk about the LA riots, and it's like,
you talk about like the Rodney King riots.
Yeah, it's like a blip. Yeah. But Ice-T was singing about it, like mainstream shit, and we still don't recognize that it was being talked about even that long ago.
Yep.
And all I can hope is that and work for is that this year, these protests, we're going to make a difference. Things are going to change.
I hope so, because they're still going on. In major cities, they're still protesting.
Of course, because things aren't changing. I mean, you hear talk like the Seattle, for instance, Seattle Council. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, thank you. Has said that they're going to make changes, but like I've said to you many times, like I'll believe it when I see it. Yep. Exactly.
It's all words. Like the council passed stuff, and then in Portland they passed no tear gas ban and stuff.
The next day,
and then the federal government went to court. And a judge overturned it and said that they can't do that.
Well, and then they have the mayor come out. The mayor is the head of the police in Portland, right? And I'm
not 100% positive on that. I thought there's a police chief too.
Well, there might be a police chief too, but I think he makes the calls.
Maybe, but go ahead.
Where did we hear this? I heard it from Tuck Woodstock.
Okay.
On Gender Reveal.
Okay.
Their podcast is Gender Reveal. If you want to listen to a good podcast. Gender Reveal. And they're out in the streets.
Yeah.
And so we heard them talking about how their mayor of Portland got tear gassed.
Right.
And then turned around and was crying about being tear gassed, goes back to his comfy, office. And then because it wasn't the Portland police that tear gassed him, it was the federal militarized whatever they were, because nobody knows.
Border Patrol or Customs, ICE.
No, they weren't identifiable. They had no identifying markings of what national,
yes,
whatever they were from, militarized police force. And so he goes back to his office, and then his own Portland Police Department starts tear gassing the protesters as he's crying about being tear gassed by the national group. And it's like, how fucking backwards are you that you're gonna make a big spectacle just because you hate Trump? Which I get it. Like what what Trump did was horrible. Like just a big just to get his fucking base up, really, to get them in an uproar. But he does it to his own people. It just makes me angry.
All right, back to Bill Campbell.
Sorry.
The author of Sunshine Patriots, my booty novel, pop culture, politics, puns, Pooh-Butt, from a liberal stay-at-home dad, and Coontown Killing Caper. He did some other things, some other anthologies, lives in Washington where he spends times with his family, and helps produce audiobooks for the blind, and helms Rosarium Publishing, which is his company, obviously.
Oh, cool.
Crystal Casano, Ka Yan Chian, P. Dele Clark, Djele Clark, sorry, Jerry Kraft, Rafael Desquitado Jr., Damian Duffy, T. Fox Dunham, Gallo Find or Fino, I think it's Find, Matthew Fisher, Aaron Rand Freeman, Charles Featheroff, Gregory Garay, Brendan L. Hankins, Shomari Harrington, Jason T. Harris, Dean Haspiel, Joe Hilliard, Walida Emarisha, John Jennings. We read one of his books earlier, some weeks ago, some months ago, I should say. At this time, he was an associate professor of art and visual studies at University of Buffalo in Buffalo, but he is now working in California. Let's see. A.V. Jeter, Jason Scott Jones, Bizhan Code Abande, Keith Knight, Mondo Wilenga, Dr. Bettina L. Love, Robert Love. Let's see, who else we got? Takia Marie, McGreevis, Keith A. Miller, Tommy Nagayan Smith, Andrew Neves, Kevin Neves, Gary Phillips, Joshua Plenchner, Jason A. Quest, Ndaya Reeves, Stacy Robinson, Jason Rodriguez. He's the final editor, comic book writer and editor. The books he has edited or contributed to have been nominated for an Eisner Award and 10 Harvey Awards. He is currently, at this time, he was editing a 3-book series of anthologies about colonial New England in the mid-Atlantic region. His first sci-fi book, Try Looking Ahead, was released in May 2015 from Rosarium Publishing. Sophia Samatar, Sea Shots Brush. Not sure what that is. Melanie Stevens, Lance Tooks, Tak Toyoshima, Jerome Walford, David White, Philip R. Williams Jr., Itasha, L. Womack, Ashley A. Woods, J. Andrew World. Those are all the contributors. This is, like I said, it's black and white, 164 pages. And it starts out with Bill Campbell's introduction, which alone, just reading that, I think part of it may have been what Parker originally read at the beginning, 6-year-old Ruby Ridge and stuff, but or maybe not, but just reading the introduction was alone enough to start your blood boiling, and then there's a portrait of all these people that had been killed. It was a drawing, but it was a portrait of all these people, and just they're all standing together with smiles on their face and everything, and it's just a horrible thing.
It's like 8 people right now.
Yeah. No. It's like 8 of them. 8 big names.
Do you want to read the names?
Sure. There was John Crawford, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Kerry Ball Jr., Amadou Diallo, Tanisha Anderson, Miriam Carey, Yvette Smith, Rikia Boyd, Ayanna Stanley Jones. As you can see, they were not all men. Some of them were children, some of them were women. So the first story is enough. Again, after that, just about a guy going home with his dad, just driving home in the middle of the night after work, and they fucking get pulled over, just blocks from home.
Yeah,
get pulled over, blocks from home, just because he's black, and it's just. And as a kid, teenager, little kid, no matter what, you see this kind of shit happening to your family when you haven't done anything.
Right.
And you see it happening over to your friends, to your family, uncles, aunts, whatever it might be. It's just, it has to eat away at you.
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
Make you just distrust and hate.
How could it not?
I mean, I have watched some of these videos and read some of these stories in this book and online stuff, and it makes me hate them so much.
Yeah. Growing up, my dad always, called cops pigs and just had this general hatred toward them. And I don't think I ever bothered to ask why. I mean, my dad's a white guy, he white, straight, cis guy. He doesn't have, any reason to hate police from my perspective as a little kid. And I never asked why. I don't know why I didn't ask, but it never made sense to me.
Yeah.
Until I grew up in this rural little town. I had 2 black kids in all of my high school. Like I was very much protected from the outside world and what happens to people. And it's so disgusting when you finally find out what other people's lives are because of pigs.
Yep. All right. Here's another story. Boys in a Hood. And basically it's about mother telling the kid, you're going out in black hood, please take that hoodie off your head. Lose the dark glasses. Pull your pants up. Where's the phone case I bought you? It's an orange phone case, so it can be seen that it's not a black gun or any kind of shit. So as the kid is leaving, he's like, Sigh, the things she does to keep me miserable. And then the mother's like, Sigh, the things I do to keep him safe.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Would we ever think?
Well, there's a story in there that we can talk about that one. That's good. The black and white one like that. We wouldn't think that.
Yeah, we would never think my kid needs an
orange
or neon case in order to make sure that it's never mistaken for a gun, because our kid wouldn't be mistaken for carrying a gun. We would never think, oh, my kid can't wear a hoodie because my kid's not going to get shot for wearing a hoodie.
Because he's white, he can be walking down the street with a fucking AR-15.
Exactly, and they might stop him and ask. I don't know.
They'd ask what he's doing. They wouldn't.
They
wouldn't send 10 cars.
Exactly, but if he was a black kid, send 10 cars, he'd be shot dead before 10 cars arrive.
Yep. And this is what this book is about.
And it's hard to talk about not that it's hard to talk about. This is what we need to talk about. If you're white, these are the things you need to be talking about. But don't take, don't take our word for it, right? Like, go buy the book. Go buy the book and put your money into doing the research, into hearing their stories. Find your and we talk about this every week. I feel like find your black owned bookstores, find your black owned restaurants, support them.
Destiny City Comics in Tacoma.
Yeah. If you're local to us, Destiny City Comics in Tacoma is a black owned comic book shop. It's extremely friendly owners. It takes,
he can do handstands.
It takes,
too.
What do you think? Is that true?
Yes. He does videos.
Really?
Uh-huh.
I can't do a handstand. Can you do a handstand?
He does all kinds of stuff.
He takes videos of himself doing it and just posts on Twitter?
Yes. He doesn't. He can't take videos of himself doing a handstand.
Sure you can. You just click the button. It's just magic, right?
It is magic. And the phone floats.
Sometimes I wonder how many people are involved in the recording of things sometimes.
I know.
I have a friend who records himself doing, or has somebody record them doing hula hoops.
Oh, yeah.
Or, playing with their hula hoop. And I'm like, how do you do it all the time? Are you having your kid
Probably somebody like
do
that.
it? But they're little kids. I don't.
Unless they just have a stand.
Yeah, they must have a stand. There's got to be something you can set.
Well,
There's a time lapse thing in iPhones.
And you can edit.
We're just not fancy people that do these kind of fancy things.
We just do.
We're just talking today about how boring we are.
Yeah, well, we'll get less boring after COVID.
I don't know. Yeah, anyway, but yes, back to the original comment. Support your Black authors. I mean,
yes. If you don't want to buy this book, look for more Black creators. You can find them on
just
Twitter
telling their story.
Everything.
Yes. I mean, I've read a lot of times too. They don't want to tell stories about slavery and how hard their life is because they're Black, because they lead amazing lives despite all the shit we put on them. And so, read the amazing creative things that they come up with. Read Black creators in general, not just to educate yourself, but to help support them in there.
And if you've listened to us, and if this is your first time listening, go back through our catalog. We've done a lot of books. We've read a lot of books by Black creators
that aren't about the pain of.
Yes, exactly. They're just good damn books.
Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like it's also important to do your homework and to understand, because I mean, especially reading some of this, some of these stories, the short stories, there was one about an uncle. Okay, well, actually, first I'll start at this one. I just came across it as I was flipping through, about this pregnant woman who she's hungry for wings and pickles and peanut butter and strawberry ice cream. She gets these cravings, right? And most pregnant people. I shouldn't say all pregnant people, because I didn't really get cravings.
No, I don't think I don't think I ever, with both pregnancies, I don't think I ever went out in the middle of the night to buy you anything.
You didn't. I never had like weird. I want strawberry ice cream and pickles and peanut butter, but pickles and peanut butter I feel like are one that you hear a lot. But I never had those cravings. Hot wings I definitely had cravings for, though.
Yeah, but not in the middle of the night. Yeah, which we could have found, but
well, yeah, in Buffalo anyway. Not so much in.
Did you just
Skagit.
say hot wings?
I said hot wings. What am I supposed to say?
Just wings. What kind of Buffalonian are you?
Well, they're called hot wings
everywhere else.
But also,
she was looking for
hot wings.
Yeah,
they need to be hot. They're not supposed to be mild.
Okay, you're right.
They're supposed to be hot.
I got you. Okay, I got you.
Versus buffalo wings. That's what everybody else in the world, anybody outside of Buffalo, calls them buffalo wings.
Jessica Simpson's. I didn't know buffaloes had wings. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway. So he's like, all right, I'll make you breakfast. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. She's like, all right, I'll be back in 10 minutes then. and so he's like, no, you're not going, get back in bed, basically. I'll go. And she says, I'll come with you. And I'm reading the whole thing, which I don't really need to do. But so then it ends up it comes to the point where he's talking to the baby. Sounds like he's a little unsure if he's going to be a good parent or not, if they're going to be good parents. And the mom reassures.
You always wonder when it's especially when it's your first one. You wonder that.
Yeah. No, for everybody does. Yeah. Can I do it? It's such a different, it's such a different dynamic to have a child. And so then we see him kissing the baby in her belly and saying, I'll be back. And she reassures him, we're going to be great parents. We're doing everything right, and then that's the last time she sees him, because he gets pulled over by the cops and killed.
Yeah.
And that was a spoiler, I guess, but it's the
whole thing. That's why
that's only part of the story. But the key to the story is that it's the baby who, grows up without her father, who says that I didn't choose, she shows herself, she's telling the story, she's drawing the story. And she says, I didn't choose this life. It was chosen for me because, the police killed my father before I even had a chance to meet him.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of people that are part of the movement are this way. And if are not, it's not that they want to
go out and protest and be anti-cop and everything.
Yeah,
but
in the middle of a pandemic, the people on the streets don't want to be there. They want justice. They want
reform. They
want reform, because the system was not built to protect them. It was not built to keep them safe. And I mean, we talked about this with our oldest today. It was built to keep them down, to keep Black people down. And that's,
they brought up the Civil War and Abraham Lincoln, and were like, that didn't end it. It didn't just end because of that.
Yeah. So that story, I mean, anything pregnancy related usually gets me. But you read these stories and it puts you into a place, especially things like that, when it catches you, pregnancy and babies are some of my passions. So when I read stories like that, it just draws me in even more. And I think that's the key too, because when you hear about the police shootings, we know these names, Trayvon Martin, we know Tamir Rice, Eric Gardner, we know these names, George Floyd. And I don't think that we take it that extra step necessarily to think about the fact that it wasn't just one man.
Exactly.
Killed,
one person.
Boy,
exactly.
Their parents. Breonna Taylor, whose murderers are still walking free.
Yep. In fact, one of them went on vacation in Florida. I mean,
motherfucker.
Heard that. Yes, exactly. It wasn't just one murder. It was multitudes of them. And you might as well mention this, the back of the book, right?
Yeah, I was planning on mentioning that.
This is a list of people killed between the time they announced the book, which was on
each person's name,
December 15th, 2014, and the day before it was going to print on September 11th, 2015.
So about 9-10 months there.
There are 881 names, and they weren't all just shot down, like on traffic stops, but they were all killed by the police.
Right. And I mean, our police force is meant to, if you follow their mission, is to serve and protect, right? Not to kill.
Correct.
So the website that they got those names from is called killedbypolice.net. So I went there, and their first list is they have a whole full database, starting in 2015. 994 people were shot and killed by the police in 2015. That's shot and killed, mind you, not shot and injured, shot and killed by the police in 2015.
Right. So how many more were injured too?
Yeah, exactly. 2016, it went from 994 to 962. 2017, 986. 2018, 992. 2019, 1,004 people were shot and killed by police in 2019. And in 2020 so far, as of August 11th, 586 people have been shot and killed by police, which is actually far lower than I would have. Exactly.
That's So here's a story here called The Problematic White Liberal. Dear white people, excuse me, I find the phrase white people offensive. I mean, skin color is irrelevant, and your insistence on bringing it up is just racist. And
you cannot be, you cannot be racist against white people. White people hold the power. You cannot be racist. Can you be bigoted against white people? Sure. But you cannot be racist. Racism is about power, and white people hold the power.
Yep. And you think of the people who you see it in shows and movies and stuff. I don't see color. Well, you have to see fucking color.
See, now I used to be one of those racists.
Yes,
because I used to be one of those racists
because you didn't realize.
I didn't because I thought that that's what it was about. You know, before I would say that I thought that way until I was, I don't know, maybe 20 years old. I would just say, I'm not racist. I don't see color. And it's like, if you don't see color, then you are extremely racist, because you have to see me and see my struggle in order to tear down these systems that hold me down, to see where you have steps ahead of me because of the color of your skin.
Yep. There's a lot of good stories in here. story.
I mean, we can't.
We can't go through them.
We could talk about every single story here and have a 9-hour-long podcast.
They have several stories about cops that are good cops that are trying to defend the right stuff.
I love the good cops in quotes.
Yes, I mean they're trying to defend. They're trying to show that, like in this training session, he actually punches one of the officers.
Is that? I think that's the only story that shows a cop in a.
You're right. That's
light.
Probably the only one.
I think that's.
But
the
he's
only
trying.
one.
It's trying to prove that if they did it from the inside, it would help a lot. But they can't. They're all afraid of the blue line.
But it wouldn't even. I mean, I wonder how many black cops join the thinking in that way.
That they can
I mean,
fix
there's
it.
part of them, but there's part of it's got to be like the militarized. If you've been in the military and you kind of already had that mindset that a police officer would be a nice point to pivot to or whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass here because I'm just trying to put myself in a black officer's shoes. Because I don't get it. I don't understand why.
Yeah, no, I know.
We have a black police officer that we see all over the place in our town. And I don't know.
Yep.
There's got to be reasoning there, and I just try and put myself in the head of I mean, yeah, I don't know.
So there's this short story called Apathy that I had told you about when I was reading the book. Sound of my father yelling wakes me from my sleep. It stabs me and my young heart races. His father's a cop. From the day he was born, his father was a cop. So you would think that his father's a good person.
Is that a he?
You know what? I am not positive now that I'm saying that. You would think that their father, because you are right. I'm not.
I just thought when I read it that they said that they were a sister of somebody or something.
You could be. I'm sorry. I don't remember
because the name is T. Fox, so it's not.
You're right.
You can't. I mean, not that you can always tell by the name, but
you're right. But you're right. You're right. I apologize for that.
I assumed it was a woman, honestly, but now that I realize who the author's name is, I don't know that you can even tell by that. So I'm not sure what I read that led me to believe that they were.
Yep. So he's a cop.
But their father's a cop, yeah.
Their father's a cop, and he's just an evil person. Threatens them, pulls his gun on them. They call the police. They call 911, and the police are like, "Oh, don't worry. He's told us. We know what he's like. He's not going to do that. He's not going to kill." He pulls his .48 and points it at their mother.
Yeah.
I mean, how like traumatizing to all these kids.
Often
traumatizing. And at the very end, even now, I fear writing this. I'm in my 30s, and I know that if he knew I was writing this to the world, he may return north with his gun.
Yeah.
I mean, how fucking sad is that? That shows that, that sometimes.
And that trauma lives on, too. If they had children, they watch that behavior, and I mean you see it often in as a trauma response to people that raise their voice. A lot of times it results in and I'm just talking raising your voice, not even pulling a gun. Like I can't imagine if I had ever seen my father pull a gun on my mother, the way that I like we had a shotgun in our house. It was never loaded. My father talked to us about never touching a gun. I personally was never taught how to see if a gun was loaded or not, but I'm not sure if my brother was. Our parents were a little bit, gender specific, although like my dad played sports with me and stuff, so not quite, the lines weren't quite, black and white. But there were a lot of things. And so, but we knew not to touch a gun. I was never taken shooting, but I know that my neighbor had an AK-47 and I know that he at least offered to let my dad shoot it at one point. And I think maybe my brother, but I can't guarantee that. Like a lot of my childhood memories, a lot of them are a little scrambled. But it was never like, if I've never seen my dad hold a gun before, and I can't even imagine the fear that I would have for my father. Like, I kind of feared my father for a long time just from him raising his voice.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine the fear that I would have about my father if I had seen him take a gun to my mother's head, or to her at all. And then the fear that then, anytime you see somebody with a gun, anytime you hear that voice raised, you have a trauma response. And then if you have children, your children, learn that response. We've learned that kind of trauma is, DNA, passed down through DNA. And it's terrifying to think, how many generations are affected by one person's actions. And when I read stories about cops and domestic violence, I immediately think of your sister. And she dated that cop for years. And I always got,
not that long, but a couple years.
Well, she dated him for a couple years I knew. And then I knew them.
Right.
But she had dated him before that.
Yeah.
Not a long time?
No.
Okay. I had gotten the impression that they were on and off for quite a while.
They were on
She
and
dated
off,
him for a
but
couple
not,
years while I knew, when you and I were together.
He was an okay guy, but he was a little weird.
I always got a bad
little weird vibe. I agree.
It was always, you could, now I don't know if it's because of the way I perceive people, because I often perceive masks really well. And I always felt like there was he was always putting on a show. He was always putting on a show. And then you told me that he liked to drink.
Yeah.
And that he would always be drinking after his shift or whatever. And it was like, okay, yeah. I mean, he put on this nice guy show, but I wonder what kind of stories your sister could tell us about her relationship.
Never saw him. I saw him in uniform a few times because he actually worked in my neighborhood.
Oh, that's right.
But
you would see him when you were riding, right?
I had seen him a few times there, but I also saw him one day when he was actually out of his car. They were looking for some suspects. They got a call.
Oh, okay.
Kids van line as a house or something. But off of work, I never saw him carry a gun or anything. Maybe he carried a gun in his car, but it wasn't like here where people just walk around with guns strapped to them.
Yeah, I can't say that's something they don't have they must not have open carry in New York.
No, but he's a cop. He probably could have carried.
But you know what? When I was a kid, I don't remember seeing people walking around.
I don't think it was
guns.
Always open carry.
Oh, really?
I think it's a more recent thing.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, but I do wonder what kind of things your sister has encountered and life she's kind of lived. I know
she's not with him.
She's not with him anymore. And she's survived abusive relationships since then even.
Yeah.
So we know that she's survived a lot. And while I don't have the best relationship with your sister, I certainly feel for her, but being that close to a relationship like that, you kind of, I don't know. I just kind of got that. Did you get that feeling from him? Like
I always got that there was just.
Did you ever feel kind of protective? Okay. Did you ever feel protective when she was around? Sometimes I felt like
she always chose the wrong people. She chose the bad guys. She always did. Always.
I mean,
that was just who she chose. She liked those bad guys, the bikers, guitar players, the musicians. That's just who she
Musicians
chose.
Are bad guys. I mean, cops are bad guys. That's for bad people, for damn sure.
Guys that drinking. It's just those.
I think your sister has trauma. I mean, you have trauma. Your brother has trauma. There's a lot going on in your family. Yeah. But I wanted to end the show the same way the book ended. I wanted to read.
Okay.
This poem, When It Gets to This Point, by Mondo Wilanga, and then we can finish out the show. Does that sound good? Do you have anything else you want to talk about before
that's good. We can wrap that after that. Go ahead.
Okay. Michael Brown, I'd never heard of him. I'd never heard of anything he'd done before the news of his death came. Whoever he may have become, whatever he might have achieved, he lived longer, not been riddled lifeless by bullets from Darren Wilson's gun and crumpled on the pavement of Ferguson Street, for more than 4 hours in the heat of that August day, and before I had never heard of Trayvon Martin, had known nothing of who he was until I learned of his demise and the cause of death, a bullet to the chest. George Zimmerman, the shooter, a badgeless pretend police with a pistol, and fear of the darkness, Trayvon's darkness. And after a while, the pictures, the names, the circumstances run together like so much colored laundry in the wash that bleeds on whites. It was Eric Garner or Tamir Rice, who was 12 but seen as 20. Hulk Hogan, or the Hulk with demonic eyes, it was said, who shrank the cop in Ferguson into a 5-year-old who had to shoot. Just had to shoot, and John Crawford III in a Walmart store aisle, an air rifle in his hands he'd picked up from the shelf and held in the open, in an open carry state. Was it John or someone else killed supposedly by mistake in a dark stairwell? I know a K. Gurley fell. I hadn't heard of him before, nor of Amadou Diallo or Sean Bell prior to their killings. Which of these two took slugs in the greater number? I don't recall. My memory is too encumbered with the names of so many more before and since, the frequent news of reports of non-arrests, non-indictments, non-true bills, and duplicitous presentations by experts in the field, the consultations put out front to explain away, to which is so often plain as day, to coax and convince us that we're the ones who can't see straight and can't hear clearly, who are the ones replacing facts with spin to mislead and mystify, as the beatings and the chokings and the shootings of our boys and men by these wrong arms of the law proceed in orderly fashion before the sometimes sad and sometimes angry faces of our uncertain, our hesitant disbelief.
Wow, that was very powerful, and you read it amazing. It was very good. It's
the perfect way to end this book, honestly.
Obviously, they knew what they were doing when they put it together.
Oh, absolutely.
It was that
everything. And I mean, we talk about
is you have to read this. Read fucking people. Black people's stories. Read their stories. Read their good stories. Read their happy stories.
Yes, because they shouldn't have to fucking write about their pain all the goddamn time.
Read about their fucking father being afraid to get pulled over, or them laying on the ground wondering how they got there, or their dad shot. And let's read about good stuff too.
Yeah.
Let's read about like Black Mojo we did from John Jennings.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of good stuff.
Oh God, that was a great book. I love that book.
Or Bottom Feeders. You know, there's so many good books out there. We've read a bunch, and we're going to read more. And we want you to also.
Yes, please support the Black people that are opening up small businesses. Support the restaurateurs. Support Destiny's Comics in Tacoma. I know we talk about them a lot. We love to support them, and we want you to too. Black Lives Matter.
That's right. And
support the causes.
Yep. And we will keep saying that. And until next week, my name is Mike.
And I'm Parker.
And this is the Graphic Novel Podcast.